What is in a spell? This is the second video of 3. The first video we looked at some definitions. I gave a short introduction to myself and the purpose of these 3 videos on breaking the spell. We will, in this video, go into understanding what a spell is made out of. What's the recipe? And there is a specific recipe. There's only 6 basic ingredients, and there's only 3 methods. From my definition of a spell being a conditioned response, how that's made up. We'll also do some spell checking. In this case, we'll be looking at the 3 main parts of a spell. Again, this is from using my model, the internal map of reality. We'll look at triggers, the assignment of meanings, and then how outcomes are generated. And then we'll wrap up this session with looking at how to recognize resourceful spells, because ultimately, if you focus on the resourceful spells, the unresourceful spells will dissolve. Again, a little disclaimer. I do want to again repeat that this is not a therapy, treatment, or replacement for anything that you're doing. If you're working with a holistic health practitioner and that's going well for you, I'm not intending to replace that. I'm also not pushing any other belief system or wanting you to join any particular group. This is purely information that I found useful in my path, and I thought I would share it. It is not a sales pitch. There's nothing you have to buy. And the model I'm working with is called the internal map of reality. This is a layperson's view of how the mind works. And from my research, I found parts of it do exist in the academic world, and I will talk about that later. Again, information is free. I will be providing, for those who want more information on the model, internal map of reality, if you want it. However, there's nothing else that you need. The reference material, if there's any that need to be produced, I'll make available for free. And there will be a research publication in the near future that, for those that are interested, can look at some of the more academic evaluation of this kind of approach to the mind. In the last video, I did cover a little bit about me. If you want more on that, please go back, look at the previous video, or go to my webpage or Facebook page and have a peek there. If you leave comments on these videos, and I would love to read any kind of comments about how you are experiencing or enjoying this material or not enjoying it, it will go into a queue waiting my approval. If you want my response to your comments shared, I will do that. If you don't, just put "for my eyes only," and I will not share the video, but I will reply to you personally. Okay, I just want to expand the definition of a spell a bit more accurately. So here's a deeper evaluation of what I call a spell. It's basically one or more events that, when you experience them, you assign a specific meaning to that event or series of events. The meaning that you assign to it will then motivate a change in your mental state and your behavior. Not necessarily both at the same time, but quite often they do go together. You'll notice you'll have a mental state change, and that will elicit a behavior. The other part of what I'm calling a spell is that the overall outcome is for someone else's benefit not yours. So this is kind of where we're going with this. Okay, what's in a spell? Well, a spell is a specific recipe. It has to be delivered, experienced in a very, very specific way. If the recipe is in any way messed up, the spell will not have the same effect or no effect. Think of it like this. A magician does a trick, and you fall for the illusion of the trick. But if the magician makes one boo-boo, the illusion fails. So spells are like this. You will see later on in this video that the events that you experience that generate the meaning and then the behavior have to happen in a set way. That's why quite often these recipes are very, very simple. They're not long and complicated. There are only 6 ingredients in all spells. Only 6 ingredients. They happen to be your 5 senses plus words or symbols. So someone can show you an image which will elicit, trigger a spell. You might hear a sound or music, and that would elicit a response. Sometimes if you've ever had a massage or someone comes and gives you a hug, these tactile physical sensations generate or can generate a reaction. Tastes, smells. I remember hearing the one about selling a house. You bake some bread before the intended purchaser arrives, and they walk in and they smell bread, and that elicits a certain mental state, and they feel warm and comfortable in that house, more likely to buy it. They do the same thing with used cars. There is a car smell, a new car smell that they can spray in a used car, and when you sit in it, it elicits the mental state that you're in something new. Perhaps the biggest thing that we experience on a day-to-day basis are words and symbols. We have stop lights and we have go lights. We have hand signals. People can actually just come out and tell you, don't do that or do this. So these 6 ingredients combined, either alone or in any kind of combination, can be a spell. But as I mentioned earlier, a spell that you are experiencing that is eliciting behavior that you would like to reduce or eliminate, the ingredient and the specific way that the visual or the sounds or the whatever happen, they have to happen in a specific way. So if you mess with the recipe, and I'll show you how to do that in a minute, spell won't work. Simple as that. Forget to put the one ingredient in your cake, and the cake won't work. It's exactly like that. So there are 3 methods, though, that you have to be aware of, and these methods relate to time. So you can have the sensation or experience in the present. You are actually experiencing it. You're doing something now. But if you recall something from the past, that can elicit the spell too. So you can remember something and it can be just as powerful as experiencing it in the present. And of course, the future, you can conjure up in your mind an event and then react to it. I do that a lot. I think about what's going to happen at a party, or if I'm going to go have a meeting. In my mind, I'll project the future and then react to it. So it's something I think we all do. And if you think of a good friend or something you did in the past with your friend, you'll get a happy, warm feeling remembering the past. So the 3 methods, 6 ingredients, that's it. Knowing and recognizing these is the first step in breaking the spell. So you have to become aware of it. So we're going to do something I call spell checking. So the first part of spell checking is recognizing, let's call them triggers, or maybe in the more academic community, they might call them a stimulus. You recognize whether you are visually seeing something when you are triggered to have a mental change or a desire. So you want to figure out first what that trigger is. Where is it coming from? Is it one of the 6 ingredients? Is it from the past, something you're experiencing right now, or something you're projecting in the future? In other words, begin to become aware of your spell. And very important, remember, it can be a positive spell or a negative spell or neutral. Neutral spells are a special case. And for those who meditate, you'll understand how important that is. But anyway, something happens. You have an experience, either from the past, the present, or the future, or some combination of the 6 ingredients. And then, here's where the magic is, you assign a meaning to that event. The meaning is really the PowerPoint. This is what causes any experience that you have to have a result, to have an outcome. So if you put a certain meaning on something, you're going to react in a specific way. I quite often tell a joke, and everyone is appalled, and they look at me and they give me dirty looks, and they think, oh, how could Steve say such a nasty joke? Then I change the meaning of that joke, and everybody laughs and says, oh, okay, now I see. Instantly, by changing the meaning of that joke, they perceived me differently. Very powerful. And finally, there's an outcome. So it kind of goes like this. You experience something, you see, hear, taste, smell something from the past, present, or future, and then you give it a meaning. And you're told what that meaning is, by the way. And then that generates the outcome. You either feel good, feel bad, decide to not go to work or go to work, whatever. So understanding the 6 ingredients, the 3 methods, once you begin to see those and understand how they're working in you on a day-to-day basis, then you'll begin to be ready for the final video, the next video, in breaking the spell. But I have something for you now that you can start to use right away and begin to get some benefits today. When you're just going about your day, having to do whatever it is you need to do, if you suddenly get into a mind state where you feel fantastic, you feel ready to work, I call that a power state of mind. You feel like you're ready to do something. You feel motivated to be very, very constructive. So at that point, just stop for a second and say, wow, what just happened before I switched into this power state? What happened? Did I see something? Did I think of somebody? For me, whenever I think of my parents, I immediately switch into a power state of mind. Sometimes some people will say words to themselves. They'll say, okay, let's do it. And you'll hear them repeat that. And right after they say those words, they get active and they do things and their whole mind changes. I sometimes like to watch athletes. If you watch a baseball pitcher, you will notice that they always repeat very accurately the same moves prior to pitching or throwing that ball. What are they doing? They're getting themselves into a power state of mind. This technique has been around for quite a while. If anyone who likes the Olympics, about 10 or 15 years ago, they began to introduce power thought. So prior to the athlete doing their event, be it a dive, a race, or whatever it is, they go into a short meditation and they're doing something in their mind to recall their power state. And we've done projects on that at St. Mary's very effectively. It does work. So when you go into a power state, you feel fantastic. Find out what it was and then use it. Every time you want to get into that power state, relive that event. Quite often it will be something from the past that you recall that puts you in that state of mind. Same thing with behaviors. When you find that you are functioning at your optimum level where things are easy for you to do for some reason, all of a sudden you're cleaning the house, you're cooking, you're working, or if you're a computer programmer, you just get in there. For me, it's writing. I wait and I can tell when I've switched into a very productive state of mind and I'm ready to be active, and I will begin to write, and I'll write solidly for an hour and generate hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of coherent words. Other times I'm not in that power state. It's work. It's hard to do. But when you are in that very strong, centered position and you're functioning well, again, just stop and recall what you may have conjured up in your mind to put you into that power state. So here's the thing that you can do between now and the next video. Begin to recognize when you're in these power states of mind, when you're in the focused, productive action state, when you're doing things that are very, very beneficial. Then step back, find the meaning, try to figure out what was the meaning that I was assigning. What was the event? What were the components? What were the ingredients? Was I hearing something? Was I seeing something in my mind? Was I projecting something into the future, seeing a future outcome, and then becoming extremely powerful in my mind and body? If you begin to do that, you begin to learn how the meanings that you assign to the events that you conjure up in your mind, either from the past, the present, or the future, when you begin to find those meanings that are your power meanings, then, well, for some people, that's it. They're gone. They figured out how to break the spell. They're good. But for us, most of us, you're going to need this last section coming up. And in this next video, we're going to put more time on how to focus in and keep our resourceful spells. And here's the big one. We're going to learn how to break all of the rest. And it's unbelievably simple. But it is something you have to do. Now, when I say it's simple, it means the actions you have to do are really simple. But here's the rub. You have to do it. If you don't do it, it won't happen. Sounds simple, but that's the truth. So listen, I appreciate this. I tried to keep this video fairly short. I really appreciate you taking the time to watch this. Again, feel free to make comments. And if you want your comments private, just put for my eyes only. Stay focused and wait for the next video, which will be reinforcing your useful states of minds and behaviors. Again, thank you.